Darkness characterized the being to which the fossil belonged, and the thoughts and desires which once dwelt within it never soared beyond those of the brute, one early anthropologist observed of Neanderthal man. However, the use of fire, mysterious carvings, and sophisticated weapons hint at something far more dangerous, a sophisticated capacity for abstract thought and communication. The ability to cooperate, plan, and strategize may have been man's ultimate weapon. Backed by linguistic abilities and a capacity to use mental symbols, Neanderthals would have been apex predators. Nonetheless, if these humans shared our constructive instincts, they also likely shared our destructive tendencies, and a creature armed with advanced communication ability is a formidable competitor, but not necessarily an entirely rational one. Neanderthals were our closest human relatives, sharing many similarities with modern humans. But did Neanderthals have complex language? The linguistic abilities of Neanderthals have been widely debated. Several pieces of evidence indicate that they could speak. However, to answer this compelling question, we must first distinguish between speech and language. Speech refers to the ability to verbally express sounds and words, but language is far more complex. It entails using those sounds to express ideas. According to some research, speech was acquired long before Homo sapiens and Neanderthals split in the evolutionary tree between 400,000 and 800,000 years ago. In fact, the available evidence strongly suggests that Homo erectus developed rudimentary language more than 1 million years ago. In doing so, Homo erectus influenced the world more than any other creature, including their descendants, the Neanderthals. Remarkably, even before modern humans diverged from Neanderthals, the last common ancestor already had articulate speech. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence supporting this theory is that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals share 2 evolutionary mutations in a gene called FOXP2. This gene is associated with the control of speech and facial muscles that aid in speech production, and mutations in FOXP2 can result in language deficits in humans. As we will discuss in more detail, scientists used high-resolution CT scans of fossilized ear structures to create virtual 3D models of the Neanderthal ear. According to the data, Neanderthals can recognize sounds between 4 and 5 kilohertz, which is similar to modern humans' hearing ability. Aside from our own species, the Neanderthals are the most robust and most studied of the hominin record. And thanks to the abundance of available specimens, including their skeletal remains and many other traces of their activities, scientists are gradually piecing together a picture of their basic behavior. From the Neanderthals' unique lifestyle to their advanced language and communication skills, the picture researchers are painting is far from primitive. Neanderthals lived over a huge geographic region, from France and Spain to the Middle East and Levant, Russia and Siberia, and possibly even China, as evidenced by the Neanderthal-like inner ear structures of several fossil skulls discovered there. Around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals stopped roaming the Earth. However, as time passes, new technologies aid scientists in learning more about Homo neanderthalensis, how they lived, and what similarities they may have had with Homo sapiens. Though the Neanderthals were a solitary species before their extinction, sticking to themselves and a few close companions, they were also accomplished and adaptable, with behavior traits that allowed them to survive some of the world's coldest temperatures. There is even debate over what Neanderthal speech and language sounded like. Scientists have long debated whether Neanderthals were capable of speaking. Some anthropologists even argued that Neanderthals lacked the anatomical ability to generate sounds. Then, in the 1980s, scientists discovered a Neanderthal male's skeleton in Kebara Cave in the Levant. The skeleton, known as Kebara II, was in good condition, allowing scientists to examine the neck bones. They discovered that the hyoid bone was similar to humans, leading researchers to believe that Neanderthals were capable of speaking. Recently, an international team of researchers created a 3D virtual reconstruction of the spine of Kebara II, an adult male specimen, and one of the most complete Neanderthal skeletons known to science. The study found that Neanderthals had an upright posture and straighter spines than modern humans. Neanderthals are frequently depicted as being barrel-chested with massive neck muscles. Nevertheless, the anatomical findings indicate that Neanderthals' chests were roughly the same size as modern man, but with significant differences that allowed for greater lung capacity. Understanding the structure of the thorax is important to anthropologists because it provides information about how ancient humans spoke and breathed. However, the delicate bones of the ribs and spine frequently do not survive to the present day or are simply too fragile to handle. Rather than attempt a risky physical reconstruction of Kibara II, researchers painstakingly performed computed tomography on each of his vertebra and rib fragments before reassembling the data into a 3D model. Instead, Kibara II's wide lower thorax suggests that Neanderthals breathed primarily through the contraction of the diaphragm, which is located in the lower rib cage. In contrast, modern humans rely on both the diaphragm and the expansion of the rib cage to breathe. What's more, the shape of Kibara II's rib cage suggests that its diaphragm was larger than that of modern humans, allowing for increased lung capacity. Scientists previously assumed that Neanderthals had relatively large chests to accommodate relatively large lungs. However, this appears not to have been the case. The reconstruction also confirmed that Neanderthal spines were straight, but Kibara II appears to have had very little lumbar curve, unlike modern humans. Kibara II's rib cage was wider at the bottom than ours, but not significantly larger in volume, one of the major surprises of the study. Neanderthals were stockier than modern humans, and larger bodies necessitated a higher oxygen consumption. The model demonstrated that Kibara II's ribs connected to the spine in an inward direction, pushing the chest cavity outward. But what exactly did Neanderthal speech sound like? Scientists cannot fully determine what Neanderthals sounded like because they lacked the soft tissues that determine the length and structure of the vocal tract. However, given their extremely large lungs and high levels of testosterone, it is likely that Neanderthals would have had a very deep and masculine voice. The theory is controversial, and some scientists believe Neanderthals sounded just like Homo sapiens. There is increasing evidence that Neanderthals were capable of hearing and producing language. Although scientists do not know the level of sophistication of the language, they believe they were capable of producing a variety of sounds. Neanderthals wouldn't grunt and scream like chimps or gorillas. Humans have different hearing patterns than other primates, which allows us to hear at the frequencies used in speech. In an aforementioned study, published in Nature Ecology Evolution, researchers used computerized tomography scans to investigate sound transmission in Neanderthals' outer and middle ears. The investigation determined that the auditory capacities in Neanderthals do not differ from those in modern humans. Most notably, scientists discovered that Neanderthals could have heard and understood consonant sounds, implying they were capable of sophisticated vocal communication. Whatever the case, scientists have recently discovered that Neanderthals had the hearing capacity to understand complex language. Many scholars are hesitant to conclude that Neanderthals were capable of sophisticated speech because there is no evidence of symbolic language in the archaeological record. Other complicating factors make it difficult for scholars to determine how Neanderthals communicated. One complication is that Neanderthals lived in small groups. Their population was small, and these groups rarely encountered one another. When they did, they may have spoken different dialects and languages. Archaeologists have not discovered any remains of Neanderthal vocal cords or throat muscles because all soft tissue has vanished over the millennia. Nonetheless, there is one bone associated with the vocal tract, the hyoid, a delicate U-shaped bone located at the front of the throat, just beneath the jawbone. The hyoid bone is not connected to any other bone in the human body, but it serves as an anchor point for throat ligaments and muscles necessary for speaking and swallowing. Due to its small size and fragility, the hyoid is rarely found intact in fossil hominins. There is only one known complete hyoid bone from a Neanderthal. Researchers discovered that the most likely position for the Neanderthal hyoid was slightly forward of where the modern human hyoid bone sits, leaving no room for an ape-like air sac. The Neanderthal voice box was much larger than ours. The voice box, also known as the larynx, is essentially an echo chamber that allows the voice to resonate. A larger, differently shaped echo chamber influences the phonetic quality of the sounds that emerge from it. So Neanderthals possessed the anatomical properties necessary to produce sounds that could serve as the foundation for speech, though any words they produced would have sounded strange to modern human ears. Most scientists believe that Neanderthals used language, but what exactly did that language mean for them? Human language is symbolic. We use words to represent objects, and we talk about objects that aren't there, implying words aren't situation-specific. Scholars continue to struggle to understand how Neanderthals communicated because there is no evidence of symbolic language in cave drawings or sculptures. Could Neanderthals communicate using symbolic language? Scientists are unsure. Cave art, for example, would show the ability to create representative symbols. Currently, anthropologists lack the unequivocal evidence to make such a determination. Nevertheless, cave paintings, carvings, and weapons hint at something far more dangerous: a sophisticated capacity for abstract thought and communication. Neanderthals show many modern human traits, including a capacity for tribal conflict. Many Neanderthal skeletons have stab wounds, including Shanidar III, whose lung was most likely punctured by a stab wound to the chest between the 8th and 9th ribs. This could have been an intentional attack or a hunting accident. In either case, the man survived for several weeks before being killed by a rockfall in the Shanidar cave. Indeed, their complex behaviors appear to indicate that they must have been able to communicate, but some scientists argue that only modern humans have ever had the mental capacity for complex linguistic processes. It will be difficult to prove either way, but the first step would be to see if Neanderthals could produce and perceive sounds within the optimal range for speech-based communication. How did these humans sound? You wouldn't know what they were saying, but you'd understand how they were communicating with one another. If there was a Neanderthal language, we would most likely never be able to access it. So the language in the vocabulary of the Neanderthal will never be known. But how did the researchers conclude that Neanderthal speech was more than just grunts? According to the study, analyzing Neanderthals' inner ears was crucial. The study's findings also revealed that Neanderthal speech most likely consisted of more consonants than vowels, which previous research has emphasized. Though it has been confirmed that these humans could produce a wide range of sounds, it remains unclear whether these sounds were actual speech. The evidence provides evidence in favor of Neanderthal language and speech, resolving the decades-old debate. Researchers discovered that Neanderthals had similar auditory and speech capacities to modern humans. The conclusion was reached after analyzing various CT scans and 3D models of Neanderthal and modern human inner ear structures. The findings suggest that we may have more similarities with Neanderthals than previously thought. It has previously been established that Neanderthals were capable social animals. However, exactly how they communicated with one another remained unknown. In the study, researchers used high-resolution CT scans of 5 Neanderthal skulls to generate virtual 3D models of the ear structures. They also modeled Homo sapiens ear structures as well as a much older fossil, the skull of a Cima de los Huesos hominin from Spain, the ancestor of Neanderthals, who lived around 430,000 years ago. A model of these structures' hearing capacity derived from auditory bioengineering was then used to determine the frequency range to which the ears were most sensitive, also known as the occupied bandwidth. Modern humans' occupied bandwidth is the human vocal range. The researchers discovered that Neanderthals had better hearing in the 4 to 5 kilohertz range than their ancestor, and that the Neanderthal bandwidth was closer to that of modern humans than their ancestor. This optimization strongly implies that Neanderthals needed to hear one another's voices. The presence of similar hearing abilities, particularly bandwidth, suggests that the Neanderthals had a communication system as complex and efficient as modern human speech. Interestingly, Neanderthals' bandwidth extended to frequencies above 3 kilohertz, which are primarily involved in consonant production. This, according to the researchers, would distinguish Neanderthal vocalizations from vowel-based vocalizations found in non-human primates and other mammals. Most previous research on Neanderthal speech capacities focused on their ability to produce the main vowels in English spoken language. However, this emphasis is misplaced, because the use of consonants allows for more information to be included in the vocal signal, as well as distinguishing human speech and language from the communication patterns of almost all other primates. The fact that the study discovered this is an extremely interesting aspect of the research, and represents a novel suggestion about our fossil ancestors' linguistic capacities. Nonetheless, the researchers cautioned that simply having the anatomy to produce and hear speech does not imply that Neanderthals had the cognitive ability to do so. However, they point out that we have evidence that early hominins engaged in the complex symbolic behavior associated with Neanderthals, such as funerals and art. This behavioral difference is similar to the difference in hearing capacity between Neanderthals and their ancestors, according to the researchers, implying that complex behaviors and the ability to communicate vocally evolved concurrently with modern humans. The findings, combined with recent discoveries of symbolic behaviors in Neanderthals, support the notion that they possessed a type of human language that was vastly different in complexity and efficiency from any other oral communication system used by non-human organisms on the planet. Therefore, the evolution of Neanderthal language abilities and capacities is strikingly similar to that of modern humans. Their geographic coexistence provides scientists with additional evidence that Neanderthals were able to communicate in some form, even if their language differed from ours. The findings are conclusive, demonstrating that Neanderthals were able to perceive and produce human speech. This is one of the few current ongoing research lines that uses fossil evidence to study the evolution of language, a notoriously difficult topic in anthropology. Lastly, given their overlapping morphology and genetics, it is becoming increasingly clear that the Neanderthals and modern humans did not have a significant evolutionary gap, so we should promote our Neanderthal relatives to Homo sapiens neanderthalensis. And with that tantalizing statement, we leave you to contemplate the mysteries of our shared human history. Until next time, remain curious and stay questioning. Please subscribe, share, and check out our channel's other videos. Thank you and take care.